As you can see, we have another young Indian with us today, part of the Voice of the Young segment. Hello, everyone. Good to be back. Today we have with us Nandini Sen. Let's listen to her. Over to you, Nandini.
Thank you so much. So good evening to, or good afternoon, good morning to everyone watching. I am Nandini Sen and I'm from Calcutta, India. At first, I want to thank Professor Mathur for inviting me to his segment, The Voice of the Young, which I had been following for a while. And I think it's an excellent platform for young people like us, researchers and students to think, voice our opinions about what we are doing currently and what we think. So thank you so much for inviting me today. To start with a little bit about me, I'm a first-year student at the Indian Institute of Foreign Trade at the Kolkata campus, and I'm pursuing a Master's of Arts in Economics with specialization in Trade and Finance. And before this, I finished my undergraduation from the Heritage College, which is under the University of Calcutta. So for my background, I was born in Delhi, and I lived there with my mother for about 14 years. And after which I moved to Calcutta to support my grandmother, who was getting very old. And me and my mother and my grandmother we were living together for a very long time. And so whatever I have done in my life and whatever I do now, it's greatly influenced by these two women in my life. And my grandmother used to teach me from when I was very young. Actually, she's the one who taught me how to be resilient and how to be myself and not pay attention to what others are telling me to do and kind of follow my own thing. Generally, I've heard in families that children are told to pursue engineering and be a doctor and all. However, in my family that was different. They told me to to explore things on my own and to understand what I like and how I could work in those fields better. And so my mother always told me, and my grandmother always told me, you do what you think is best, because we trust you and we know that you will be able to do well in what you do in life.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so thinking about that, after my 10th, I was not very inclined towards science. So I started studying commerce, and I was at DPS Ruby Park in Kolkata. And while starting to study commerce, we had economics in it. And I think when I started studying economics, we were just studying demand and supply and what it is. The point where I became extremely interested and extremely affected by economics is when we started to study about the Indian economy. When I started to know the history of how India came to be what it is right now and why we have such vast inequality. It keeps coming back to me all the time, actually, ever since I was young. In India, there's a large population of people who are living under the minimum standard of living. And I used to wonder why that is when I was young, because I didn't know, the reasons behind it. And finally, in 11th grade, when I started to study these things, I remember I was extremely angry and affected by, why should the minimum standard of living be so low? Or why is there such vast inequality in distribution of wealth and everything? And I started to get more interested in the hows rather than the whys. Like, how could it be better, or how could we reduce or curb these inequalities? Although I cannot pinpoint the exact moment I thought that, okay, this is what I'm going to pursue in my higher studies, but I remember I was so affected by these statistics, these poverty statistics, that I realized that economics is something that will take me to the reasons behind it. And so I told my mother that, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to study. And then she completely supported me with my decision. And I undertook studies. I took a BSc in economics, and I did it from, as I said, Heritage College under the University of Calcutta. And for me, the transition from school to college was big shock, because the culture, the kind of relationship between professors and students in college is completely different rather than in school. In school, we are taught to follow a very mechanical, syllabus oriented, marks oriented kind of studying. But when I came to college, I realized it's much bigger than that. I was very lucky to have met professors and have been taught by professors who were interested for me to supported me to follow and find out, have participate in research and explore these ideas. I remember from the very first year, my professors saw how interested I was in all these things, and they asked me to join the economic society in our college. And then they also encouraged us to write a research paper. We had no idea how to write a research paper in our first year of college, but we did it. We did it anyway. We met new people at college at that stage, and I may mention that it was the COVID period also. So we got to know everybody through Zoom and Google Meet, and somehow we whipped up a paper. And I remember the first paper I wrote was about the new education policy in India in 2020. And and how the different exits that the new education policy through various stages in education gave way to more people to go enroll themselves in college and primary education and such. And we had this paper presentation sort of competition with all 3 years in our college, and we were like, wow, how are we going to do this? And but I remember we were so scared, all of us. We presented it, and we fortunately stood third in that presentation. And then we wrote, formalized the paper properly, and we published it in our magazine, economics magazine of our college. And that was the first experience I had of writing research paper. And I realized at that point that this is what I want to do. This is what I want to pursue. I want to find things out. I want to understand why something is the way it is. And so then, well, I got very engrossed with my society's economic society, and I organized a lot of events. We organized the economics and business fest and everything. And then again, in my final year, we were studying financial economics, and we were studying trade, international trade, and such things. And again, I was faced with Indian economics in my final year. And again, those things started coming back to me. I had forgotten them for a while, that okay, this is the condition, this is the level of inequality, this is the level of uneven distribution of wealth. And I still need to explore. I forgot about it. I still need to explore what are the reasons behind these things. And again, I got an opportunity to write a research paper. We had a kind of inter-college research paper competition coming up when I was this year, in my final year I was. And it was at St. Xavier's University here in Kolkata. And they had their economic summit. So I approached one of my classmates, my friends from school. She was also in my college. And I told her, let's do this. Let's write a paper about, what one of the reasons behind this inequality. So the way I came up to until the idea was that so in India, it's a very common practice to hire house help at home. So we also have a house help at our home, and I call her Mashi. And yes, so she comes every single day, and she helps us out with our household work. And I talk to her every day. And while talking to her, I realized that she is the biggest source of information to me as to how their community faces inequality, and how she struggles every single day to educate all 3 of her children. And while talking to her, I also got to know that she doesn't even have a bank account. And then I realized that, okay, so all the wages that she's getting, she's obviously employed in the informal sector, right? So she has no job security again, and her wages, she gets it, money in hand, and then she spends all of it. So she has no savings either. And I realized that if she had a bank account, maybe she could have a separate savings, or maybe she could benefit from the different schemes that the government has for such a lower background people. So I thought, why not write about this? Why not write about the level of financial literacy in India? There entire community is of the idea that, if I open a bank account, they will scam me.
Yeah.
Or, so my money will get stolen and such things. So, so me and my friend, we started writing about this. And we started writing about the level of financial literacy in India. And we found out the various schemes that government had laid out. So, for example, one of the biggest schemes the government laid out in 2014 was the Prime Minister's Jan Dhan Yojana, the
Yes.
PMJDY.
Yes.
Right. And under this scheme, so a lot of bank accounts were opened. So I started thinking that, okay, this is mainly targeted to lower income background people, and to ensure that they get bank services, and they can avail the benefit of direct benefit transfers from government and etc. So many accounts were opened under this. In fact, as of April this year, there have been 50 crore accounts opened under this. So then I got to thinking, okay, so if there are so many accounts opened under the scheme, then why is it still that so many people don't use bank accounts? I come across so many people, even vendors, they are like, oh, I used, I had a UPI account, my money got stolen, stuff like that. So we started reading about that. Okay, what is the main problem? We found out that merely opening an account, it doesn't make any sense actually, because I open an account, I get money in it, I withdraw the entire money, and my account is dormant for the rest of the time.
Yeah.
So then my account is not having any more activity. I'm basically not a user of that account anymore.
Right.
So so we found out that more than 45% of these accounts that are opened under PMJDY, they are dormant.
Yeah.
And and most of these people are from rural areas, right?
Yeah.
So they don't have a lot of banks in their region, so they travel long distances, they go to these places, they withdraw it in one go, and then they keep it at home.
Yeah.
So this is what we found out, that the main problem is that if we can't just make people, we can't convince people to just open a bank account. We have to convince them to use it. And also, the bank density in these areas is so low that people don't have an option. They have to. They can't travel such long distances and wait in queues all day and everything.
Yeah.
So right. So that's what we found out, that there needs to be a financial literacy drive, and people need to be more aware of how to use these schemes properly and everything. So that was mainly what my research was about, and we presented this at St. Xavier's University. And there were 36 other papers that were presented in that summit, and our paper was fortunate enough to receive the best undergraduate paper in that competition.
Wonderful. I'm so happy. Yeah.
Thank you. So after that, we realized that we could do a lot more with that paper. This is one segment of our research. The other segment dealt with the power of UPI, UPI, Unified Payment Systems. Right now, I don't think anybody my age can imagine their lives without UPI. Everywhere we go, we scan with our phones and we pay. We practically don't carry cash anymore.
Right.
And so we conducted a primary research, and we found out that why people are, what are the actual reasons that people prefer UPI so much, and how this can be converted to other people using UPI. So, for example, small businesses are using UPI all the time right now, and why there's this other segment of people who refuse to use it. So I would say it's still an ongoing research, because so my friend, she moved to Warwick after we wrote this, so we couldn't continue, but I hope to pursue this in the future. So we wrote this paper, and then we were very elated that, okay, it was so well received by everybody there at the summit. And after that, I didn't get any more opportunities to write papers. Right now, because after that our entrances started, and after that my UG final exams started, and I got so engrossed with entrance papers and everything that I couldn't pursue it any further. But now having been here at IIFT after such a rigorous season of entrance exams, I am excited to get back into research and applying such quantitative things that we are learning right now at IIFT to my papers.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
have we have very, very highly, we have amazing professors at IIFT. I mean, they teach us every day, and I'm amazed by the level of knowledge that they have. And I'm very lucky and fortunate. So I really hope to use this in the future and write more papers. So that's some of it about me.
Okay,
And
let me respond to one of your things. I usually don't, but this one is close to my heart. And then we can ask you some questions also as continue. Okay, the problem you have pointed out of the dormant bank accounts is real. Okay. You have given us the primary data, but then what's the solution? One option is to have correspondents to whom the local people can deliver their cash and from whom they can take out the cash. They're not a bank, they're just a correspondent for the bank.
Right.
Okay, so that we don't have to go see most of the account holders don't want services. They just want a place to keep their money and to get their money. So if there is a trusted person who can handle the money right there, take the money, put it in the bank and give them the money when they want it, that's a low-cost solution. Possibly, who knows? It has to be explored, but that's one option, because without it, yes, it's very useful for DBT, and that's a great improvement, but it doesn't really give financial inclusion. Okay, it doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't give financial. I mean, you only mentioned financial literacy, but we also need to talk about financial inclusion. So that's
that's
just
the title of my paper, actually.
yeah,
Financial
okay.
inclusion in India.
Yeah, okay, great. So we don't have
Yeah.
financial inclusion at all. Yeah, and
Right.
that's actually one of the biggest weaknesses in our financial system. It's a really
Right.
major
Actually,
weakness.
I was reading an article yesterday before talking about this today. So I read that India has actually improved a little bit. I wouldn't say that we don't have any financial inclusion. So there's a financial inclusion index, as everybody knows. So we have come a little bit up. We have probably come to 59% from 56% or something like that. So you know what, I think I read this book recently, An Uncertain Glory, and there I think it is best said there that the problem is not that things cannot change. The problem is that we are not changing them fast enough as with the rest of the world. So the rest of the world is having universal, when they are having so much financial inclusion, and we still are trying to figure out how to increase the bank density in these areas, where you mentioned such a good point about having a correspondent for these banks. So I
Yeah,
think that's
I agree with that point, and I say it in this way, that good is not good enough.
exactly.
Good is not
Yeah,
good enough. You can point to this is good, that is good. Or in cricket terms, you cannot score ones and twos. You have to score fours and sixes. At this
right.
time, to satisfy the people and to get something by 2047, which is a real target,
Exactly.
you need fours and sixes. You can't say, I'm not out. That's nothing. Okay.
The rate of progress has to,
Yeah, the
the
run
way
rate. Let's call it the
run
run rate.
rate.
Let's call it the run
Exactly.
rate.
The run rate has to
The
increase.
run rate has to increase. It's 56 to 59 and then to 62. The run rate is too low.
Exactly.
Talking cricket now. You have to hit fours and sixes. You can't have a
Right.
low run rate, which is what we have, even though the GDP growth rate is high, which is indeed good, but we are starting from a low base. The per capita income
Exactly.
is low, and we need a growth rate of 6.5% is good, but as I say, good is not good enough.
And not good enough.
Good enough.
Exactly.
Because China was, the China GDP average from 1990, 30 years is 8.9%. 30-year average is 8.9%. And
we are nowhere.
we are not
Yeah.
there. No, we are
Yeah.
somewhere, but good, as I said,
Not there
good is
yet.
not good
Yeah.
enough.
Good enough.
Good is not
Yeah.
good enough. I boiled it down to very simple. Good is not
Mm,
good enough, and it won't get you what you want. We have only 24 years. It's not a long
mm,
time when we think about it from what has to be achieved. It's a long time. I mean, So anyway, that's just, my thinking, and I write about it all the time. But anyway, let's continue from you. What are your thoughts of your own future, tips for juniors, and so
right.
on, right?
I do have a lot to say about that actually.
So please.
So yeah, so I'll start with thoughts about my future. So right now since I mentioned so many times that I'm interested in research, so I think it's quite evident that I want to go and pursue a PhD in the future. And well, I'm still exploring the various fields that I could do a research PhD in. And well, inequality is something I'm extremely interested in. Poverty is something I'm extremely interested in. I just have to figure out a way to apply what I'm learning right now to these things, and then figuring out where I want to do it, where I want to pursue my PhD from. There are so many options. So that's one thing about me. And so then coming to tips for juniors, I have a lot of tips. I have thought about this long and hard actually.
Good.
So yeah, so I realized when I was in my first and second year of college, I had no idea about this intense competition. I mean, I didn't know that economics was something that so many people, I mean, in at least in my state, there are so many people who pursue economics, a lot of people. And so the competition is naturally intense, and it's very high. And I don't think the first years and the second years right now, in even in my college, they have any idea about all these things, about how intense the competition gets. Every year it gets more intense. And the number of seats and the number of prestigious really good universities is very low in our country, I would say. Only 5 or 6 places come again and again in our
Yeah.
minds when we talk about higher studies. And I think that's what makes it more difficult. It's not that, I don't think it's that the person's merit is low. I think it's just that there are there's just so many people. Sometimes people get lucky even in entrance exams. So my first suggestion would be that start early. Start early. Start if you feel that there are some subjects that you are particularly weak in. And for example, I'm not the greatest in mathematics. I had to work a lot to bring myself up to the mark where I could sit for entrance exams. And I did not take any coaching or anything for these entrance exam preparations. And so I particularly found it more difficult. Although I would say that one more thing is to attend your college classes regularly. It's not that you could do something, you could do well in these exams by not learning properly what is taught in your undergraduation. It's what makes the base for these things. And I think even without coaching and everything, if you just go to your classes and you listen to your professors and you ask them a lot of questions, just ask them so many questions. Don't feel afraid. Don't think that okay, they will judge you. They are there to help you. So I would say that please attend your classes. That's where you'll learn. And you may not even need coaching after that. You may just be able to build your and a good score through your basis that you create in your college. So that's another, please attend classes. And the next tip would be that don't be afraid of the competition. I was extremely afraid. I started my preparations very late, last November, which would be considered late by a lot of professors and a lot of students, because they start, a lot of people who are very serious, to get into places like Indian Statistical Institute and Delhi School of Economics, all these places. They start very early. And so that's the main thing. You should start early and don't be afraid of the competition, and listen to what your professors have to say. They are the biggest help that you get. That was the biggest help in my life.
Okay.
My HOD, in my college, he was so supportive. He was always there for me to answer any questions, any queries I had. So that's what helped me to get to where I am today.
Okay.
And that's what I would say.
Okay. Well, I think your future is pretty much in research at this point. So let's not
Yeah.
ask more about it. Okay. We understand where you are, right? Okay.
Right.
Eh,
I I also do wish to, I do want to get into research. Finally, that is a long-term plan. However, at IIFT we have a very rigorous placement cell and everything, and we get a stipulated time period for, internships. So I also hope to explore
mm,
that field a little bit, maybe for a while, for, internships and things like that next year. So we'll see how that goes, and then after that, of course, I would get into my PhD.
mm,
And yeah, one more reason I want to get into a PhD is because I feel that education is one more thing that holds us back as a country from get achieving higher, greater skills. Because in the labor market in the entire world, I think highly skilled people is something that is very in demand. And uh, as I earlier mentioned, my house help, my Mashi, who works at my house, she once brought her daughter to our house, and she told me, you teach her some things, you try to teach her some things. And she was in third grade, and I realized that the school she goes to, I don't think the she's in third grade and she doesn't know how to read ABCD properly.
mm, mm.
So that is the condition, that's why I think we need more quality professors, we need more quality teachers in these government schools. Because if I don't build my base well, then how do I get to a point where I'm skilled enough that people would want me to work
Yeah.
for them,
Mm, mm.
so that's another thing. That's why I want to do a PhD, and maybe become also, maybe pass on the things that I learn to people well, so that knowledge is always, as it's more
Mm.
spread more, it becomes larger and larger. And that's what something else I want to achieve. I want to see the entire us as a country at a stage where we have 100% literacy, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and that would be a very big goal that we achieve. So that's another thing that I hope to see and contribute to.
Well, I usually try not to talk in these Vidpeds, but
Please, sir,
I
please.
will add something here. Okay.
Right.
There's a concept that I'm pushing these days. It's called, you talk so much about equality and inequality. It's called equality of opportunity, not equality of income and not equality of wealth. It's not something that you find in the textbooks much, because
Right.
textbooks follow the Western model, and the Western countries think that they have set up a system by which there is equality of opportunity. But in India, we, of course, need to think about equality of income and so on. But if you have inequality of opportunity, you will never get equality of income. As you said, this girl is in third grade and she doesn't know anything. How can she become well off? She cannot. So instead of trying to think, is it education? Is it health? Is it nutrition? Is it caste? Is it religion? I try to summarize all of that by this term, equality of opportunity. Is it discrimination against girls? Is it caste? There's so many factors
There's
that
so many
go
factors.
into opportunity. We don't
Mm.
really understand it. We haven't really defined it. We haven't really done enough work on it. Partly because, our books follow the Western model.
Mm-hmm.
So we get the Gini coefficient of income. Nobody even bothers to define in what does equality of opportunity mean. Does it mean a bank account near you?
Hmm.
Okay. Or does it mean having Wi-Fi? Part of it is in the multidimensional poverty index,
Right, right.
which Niti Aayog has taken from Oxford, which is coming from Amartya Sen and so on. Okay,
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah.
But the
Mm.
multidimensional poverty index is, in a sense, a way to measure equality of opportunity. Okay, but we need to think more clearly about what we mean. I don't know all the answers, but we need to at least define what are the variables that go into equality of opportunity. I think we have an internet problem, so let me pause the recording. We are back after the internet glitch. I was just saying that my focus is on equality of opportunity, and this is the time for Nandini to respond to me. Okay, over to
Right.
you,
So,
Nandini.
right. So I also feel so actually. We studied in development economics this thing that we did study about this inequality of opportunities. However, it wasn't stated in this manner. That there's an inequality of opportunity. We were always told that okay, there's an inequality in the level of skills that people have. That's why some people go into informal sectors and some people go into formal sectors, and then even there is so much dirt in the formal sector, so there is we ultimately keep coming back to this inequality of opportunities. Like I meet people who are highly educated from even London School of Economics and places like that, and they still have a huge gap between the period that they finish their education and the period that they and the time point that they find a job. And I don't, why should it be that way? They're highly educated, skilled individuals, and yet they are unable to find opportunities to work and support themselves and apply their knowledge. So yes, definitely there's a huge dearth in all parts of the world in in opportunities. And I shouldn't even try to get into the informal sector, because in the informal sector, people struggle every single day just to find seasonal employment, and that too with very low level of job security and low wages. And although we do have schemes for that too, I'm not sure how well they're working, like Manrega and the 100 days of employment schemes. But yeah, I feel that the labor laws should be a little more strict, maybe, and the working conditions should improve. And yeah, I mean, more than trying to find jobs, I think we should be looking at building jobs, building more employment for people. That is the solution, I feel, to this problem. That rather than trying to get employed, we should look for a way to make more people employed. So that's how we can grow together as
Okay.
a community.
All right. Anything else you want to add, Nandini?
I would just finally like to, sort of thank you for this intellectual discussion. It's not every day that I, have this sort of discussions, and I don't think I'm so knowledgeable about these things, but when I start to talk about them, I find that there's a lot of intuitive knowledge about these things, and when we have discussions like these, it gets me to thinking, it makes me think more about these things. So I thank you for that, for this discussion, for this lovely discussion. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
All right. Let's end it here. And maybe we come
Sure.
back to you in a year to see how you are thinking, what you are feeling. So let's
Definitely.
say bye. Okay, bye, everybody. I'll be back with
Bye.
another young person or an expert soon. Bye.